What if I told you there was a time when machines, simple, everyday machines, almost brought us to the brink of destruction? Machines that were supposed to protect us, that we trusted to keep everything running smoothly. Sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, right? But here's the thing. It's not fiction. It's real. And it's happened more than once in history. Imagine this. You're depending on a machine to keep you safe, whether it's a power grid, a nuclear reactor, or a high-tech radar system. And one tiny error, just a glitch, a malfunction, could flip the switch from safety to catastrophe. What happens when the very thing we trust the most to protect us turns on us instead? What happens when the machines that power our world become the reason everything falls apart? In this video, you're going to hear stories that you won't find in your average history book. Stories about real-life engineering disasters that nearly wiped out entire populations. Not a movie plot, not a doomsday scenario from a novel, but actual events where machines inexplicably almost ended everything. We're talking about moments when humanity came face to face with its own fragility. All thanks to machines that malfunctioned. You might think it's all in the past, but the truth is, this could happen again. So, stick around, because what you're about to discover might make you look at the machines around you in an entirely different light. It's the height of the Cold War, 1983, and the world is teetering on the edge. The Soviet Union and the United States are locked in a high-stakes battle of wits and weapons, each side poised with enough nuclear firepower to end humanity. Every word from a world leader, every military exercise, every movement on either side could trigger the unthinkable. The stakes are higher than ever, and everyone is on edge. In the midst of this dangerous game, a man named Stanislav Petrov finds himself in a position few can even imagine, sitting alone in front of a massive radar screen at the Soviet Union's early warning command center, just outside Moscow. His job is simple, or so it seems: monitor the radar systems, and if an incoming missile is detected, alert his superiors so they can launch a retaliatory strike. The system is designed to protect the Soviet Union against a surprise nuclear attack from the United States. The stakes are huge. A single false alarm could ignite a global catastrophe, while missing a real attack would have equally devastating consequences. This is the machine that stands between life as they know it and total annihilation. But on September 26, 1983, at precisely 12:15 a.m., the radar system spits out a terrifying message. 5 U.S. missiles are heading toward the Soviet Union. The alert is clear. The alarm goes off. The stakes couldn't be higher. The Soviet leadership's standing orders are clear. If the system detects an incoming attack, Petrov must immediately report it to his superiors for retaliation. In the early years of the Cold War, both sides had nuclear arsenals aimed at each other, and the world was on edge, constantly bracing for the possibility of a nuclear strike. If Petrov had followed protocol and reported the missile threat, the Soviet Union might have retaliated, launching a nuclear strike against the US. The US would likely have responded in kind, leading to a full-scale nuclear war, and the end of civilization as we know it. But Petrov does something few in his position would have dared. He doubts the system. He doesn't trust it. Something doesn't seem right. 5 missiles? Doesn't make sense in today's. Why would the US launch such a small attack when they had the capability to send thousands? Why wouldn't they launch everything at once, overwhelming the Soviet defenses? His training told him to trust the radar system. But his instincts, his gut feeling, told him something was wrong. The machine had malfunctioned before, and Petrov had seen strange readings. This could be another false alarm, he thought. The Soviet Union's early warning systems were not flawless. They had glitches, errors, and moments of false positives. But this felt like a decision that could end the world. Petrov made the unthinkable decision. He didn't call in the report. He decided to wait, hoping the radar system was wrong. even though it was his job to follow its instructions without question. As the seconds ticked by, Petrov's heart raced. He knew what was at stake. The fate of millions was hanging in the balance. What would have happened if he hadn't trusted his instincts? What if he had called the alarm? What if the system was right and the US was indeed launching a missile strike? The world would have plunged into nuclear warfare, a war that would have erased cities, killed millions, and left nothing but devastation in its wake. Would humanity have survived? Would we even have the chance to rebuild? But the decision Petrov made, against all odds, was the right one. The radar malfunctioned. A few minutes later, the system corrected itself and the alarm was silenced. There was no missile attack. It was simply a false alarm triggered by a glitch in the system, a glitch that, had Petrov not trusted his instincts, would have led to a war. In April 2010, one of the most catastrophic disasters in modern history unfolded in the Gulf of Mexico. The Deepwater Horizon oil rig, operated by BP, was performing a routine operation in the waters off the coast of Louisiana when something went horribly wrong. It wasn't an earthquake, a terrorist attack, or even a natural disaster. No. What triggered this global crisis was the failure of a single machine. At the heart of the Deepwater Horizon disaster was a piece of equipment known as the blowout preventer, BOP. This machine, weighing over 300 tons, is designed to stop oil from surging uncontrollably to the surface when drilling into the sea floor. It's the last line of defense against a catastrophic oil spill, a fail-safe to contain and control the pressure of the well. Without it, any failure during the drilling process could quickly spiral into an uncontrollable disaster. On that fateful night in April, the BOP failed. Pressure in the well escalated, and the BOP, instead of sealing the well and stopping the flow of oil, malfunctioned. It couldn't prevent the blowout, which led to a violent explosion on the rig, killing 11 crew members and triggering a series of events that would cost the world dearly. The explosion resulted in one of the largest environmental catastrophes in history. Over the following weeks, millions of barrels of crude oil poured into the Gulf of Mexico, coating beaches, destroying ecosystems, and killing marine life. The effects of the spill were felt far beyond the Gulf. Fishing industries collapsed, tourism tanked, and local economies that depended on the coastal environment were devastated. The economic toll was staggering. BP paid billions in fines, settlements, and cleanup costs, and the total damage to the environment and economy is still being tallied today. But perhaps the most chilling lesson from Deepwater Horizon is how a simple machine malfunction, a failure of engineering, set off a chain reaction that spiraled out of control, leading to an environmental disaster of unimaginable proportions. This disaster highlights just how fragile our technological systems are, and how an engineering mistake, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, can quickly trigger a massive global crisis. The Deepwater Horizon tragedy is a stark reminder that we rely heavily on machines to keep our world safe, but when they fail, the consequences can be catastrophic. It's 1986, and the world is about to witness one of the most horrific disasters in history. At the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, a routine safety test was about to take place, but no one could have predicted the nightmare that would follow. The test was meant to simulate a power outage to see if the reactor could safely shut down on its own. But what was supposed to be a routine procedure quickly spiraled out of control, resulting in the explosion of a nuclear reactor that would send shockwaves through the world. At the heart of the disaster were a combination of human mistakes and machine failures. The reactor at Chernobyl had serious design flaws, and the operators, under pressure to complete the test, ignored critical safety protocols. When the test began, the reactor's power levels were reduced to a dangerously low level, and a series of incorrect decisions were made. The machine's flaws, combined with human error, created a perfect storm that led to an uncontrollable meltdown. The explosion released a massive amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere, which spread across Europe. The immediate impact was devastating. Thousands of lives were lost or severely affected by radiation exposure, and entire towns had to be evacuated. Chernobyl left a permanent scar on the environment, with contaminated areas still uninhabitable today, over 3 decades later. What went wrong at Chernobyl wasn't just the failure of one machine, it was the failure of safety protocols, of human oversight, and the design of machines that weren't foolproof. The disaster serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of cutting corners in technology, and how the consequences of ignoring safety can be irreversible. And the question remains, what went wrong? And why are we still feeling the effects today? On March 11th, 2011, Japan was struck by one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, a 9.0 magnitude quake, followed by a massive tsunami that ravaged the coast and sent shockwaves around the world. The disaster claimed thousands of lives and left entire towns in ruins. But at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, the devastation didn't end with nature's fury. It was just the beginning. The plant was equipped with sophisticated backup systems, designed to protect the reactors in case of a disaster. These machines included diesel generators and cooling systems to keep the reactors from overheating, even in the event of an emergency. But when the tsunami struck, the backup systems failed. The enormous waves flooded the plant, knocking out power and disabling the cooling systems. The reactors, left without a means to cool themselves, began to overheat. What followed was a nuclear meltdown, one of the worst in history. In the face of this catastrophe, the machines designed to protect the plant from exactly this type of disaster couldn't keep up. They were unable to handle the scale of the tsunami, a natural force so unpredictable, so immense, that even the most advanced technology couldn't prevent the worst. The result? Radioactive leaks, massive evacuations, and contamination that spread beyond Japan's borders, affecting countries and ecosystems across the globe. Fukushima's tragedy shows the dangers of relying too heavily on technology that wasn't designed to withstand the unimaginable. What happens when we put all our faith in machines that are meant to protect us, but fail when nature's fury hits? The Fukushima disaster wasn't just a failure of engineering. It was a stark reminder that, in the end, no technology is infallible, especially when it comes up against the power of nature. At the turn of the 20th century, one of the most ambitious engineering feats in history was underway: the construction of the Panama Canal. This massive waterway cutting through the narrow Isthmus of Panama would provide a direct maritime route between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, saving ships from the long, treacherous voyage around South America. It was a game changer for global trade, commerce, and geopolitics. But what many don't realize is that the project was nearly doomed from the start, not by some massive, catastrophic error, but by a tiny, seemingly insignificant mistake in the design of the canal's lock system. The locks were meant to lift and lower ships as they passed through the canal, moving them up from sea level into the artificial waterway and back down again. However, in a crucial miscalculation, engineers misjudged the size of the locks. They had designed them to be just barely large enough to accommodate the ships of the day, but they didn't account for the larger ships that were becoming more common as time went on. This mistake could have spelled disaster. If the locks weren't large enough, larger ships couldn't pass through, rendering the canal useless for global trade. The entire project could have been set back by decades, or worse, abandoned entirely. It wasn't just a small oversight, it was a critical flaw that could have changed the course of history. Had the locks not been corrected, the Panama Canal would have failed to meet its purpose, preventing the rapid expansion of global trade that followed. What was meant to be a gateway for economic progress could have turned into a monument to engineering failure. This incident underscores a vital lesson. Even the smallest engineering flaws, seemingly minor miscalculations, can have massive consequences, altering the course of history in ways we can barely imagine. As we step into the 21st century, we've witnessed an explosion of advanced technology, from AI that can make decisions in real time, to autonomous cars that drive themselves, to military systems that operate without human intervention. These innovations promise to revolutionize everything: how we work, how we live, and how we navigate the world. But as we place more and more trust in these complex machines, one question looms large. Are we relying too much on systems we don't fully understand? Take autonomous vehicles, for example. Self-driving cars are supposed to make our roads safer, eliminating human error, which causes the majority of accidents today. But what happens when a glitch in the software leads to a fatal mistake? A malfunction could easily cause a crash, harming passengers and pedestrians alike. While these cars are designed to learn and adapt, they still operate on algorithms that can't anticipate every possible situation. What if an AI misreads a critical moment? Or consider military drones and AI-driven defense systems. The potential for disaster is terrifying. These machines can make life or death decisions in a split second. But what happens when the system malfunctions, or worse, is hacked? A small flaw in the programming could trigger an unwanted war, all because of a machine that didn't do what it was supposed to. And then, there's space missions. We're sending AI systems into space, relying on them to control life-supporting technologies on spacecraft and to explore distant planets. What happens if a malfunction in these systems, on the far side of the galaxy, leads to a catastrophic failure? We might not even know about it until it's too late. This is the reality we're living in today. We trust our lives to machines, but the truth is, these machines can fail. Unchecked technology could trigger unforeseen problems, some with consequences we might never fully recover from. Are we building the next disaster right now? And are we ready for it? As we hurtle toward the future, one thing becomes crystal clear: the machines we create will continue to shape our world. We're pushing the boundaries of artificial intelligence, automation, and space exploration. But as we race forward, what if the next catastrophe is something we don't even see coming? What if our next great leap in technology, something we think will change the world for the better, ends up being the very thing that causes our downfall? It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of progress, but we must remain vigilant. Every new system, no matter how advanced, still carries imperfections, design flaws, software bugs, or unforeseen consequences that can trigger disasters. The Chernobyl, Fukushima, and Deepwater Horizon events weren't caused by some distant force. They were the result of human error combined with machines that didn't work as expected. And we can't afford to assume that our technology will always function flawlessly. The question we must ask ourselves is, are we thinking ahead? Are we truly aware of the flaws lurking beneath the surface of our most trusted systems? Every innovation comes with its risks. It's up to us to ensure we question, test, and prepare for the worst before it's too late. So, the next time you interact with a piece of technology, think about its limits. What could go wrong? What happens when it fails? Let's not let history repeat itself. Stay mindful of the systems we're building and always ask, could something go wrong? And are we ready for it? Machines have always been a double-edged sword. They can save us, making our lives easier, our work more efficient, and our world more connected. But they can also destroy us, as we've seen throughout history, when engineering mistakes, miscalculations, or unforeseen flaws trigger disasters. We've watched technology evolve, creating miracles like the Panama Canal, the marvels of modern medicine, and the promise of a better tomorrow. But we've also seen how a single flaw in a machine, whether it's a faulty radar system, a malfunctioning reactor, or a failed safety protocol, can change the course of history in an instant. So, as we build the machines of tomorrow, we must ask ourselves, are we truly prepared? Are we aware of the dangers that lie in the technology we trust to run our world? It's up to us, to engineers, scientists, and society as a whole, to ensure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. We have to create systems that are not just advanced, but also foolproof. And we must never stop questioning the technology we rely on. Because in the end, progress isn't just about building bigger, faster, or smarter machines. It's about learning from our past and ensuring that the machines of tomorrow don't make the same mistakes as the machines of yesterday. If you found this deep dive into the world of machines and their impact on our future interesting, don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for more stories about the machines that shape our world and the lessons we must learn from them.